Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and welcome to a brand new season of Road to 1000 Dueling Book Rating for the December 2020 format. Now, this is going to be, for those of you guys who are unfamiliar, the series where I showcase my own matches on Dueling Book's ladder and catalog my progression to ideally 1000 rating by the end of it. Now, I'm going to be doing this series quite a bit differently since I've operated essentially the same way for the last 5 seasons, aka the last 5 formats. And I think the biggest thing is that it's gotten a bit stale because it's really lacked a sense of progression, and I really hope to aim to fix that. And I'm very excited to present these changes to you guys, and hopefully you guys are going to be excited to watch as well, since I think that this will make the series overall just a lot better in general. So first off, I'm going to be switching up the perspective of the gameplay, and by this I mean that I'm going to be showcasing my own hands, but this time I'm going to be hiding my opponents. And what I aim to achieve with this is hopefully you guys can sort of jump into my point of view, right? And since obviously when you guys play your games, this is the perspective that you'll be playing from, you'll get to sort of play the games alongside with me, if you will, like as I'm commentating, and it'll really allow you to kind of just see the mindset of the decisions that players are making in the moment with incomplete and imperfect information. So that's one thing. Another thing is that I'm actually going to be picking a deck each week, and then I'll be hopefully doing 3 episodes on that same deck each week. And I'll also be showcasing just a small snippet of the deck list. Not really going to explain too much in these videos in particular, but this will allow you to see not only the decks themselves that I'm working with, but also the changes that I make throughout the videos as well. So you can see some small little edits that I make, and that way you can kind of get a sense as far as the deck building is concerned in that process. I'm also going to be doing siding in these games, where I actually visually show you guys what I side in and out of each game as well. So that should be pretty exciting because that's something I feel is not covered that much in detail, and I hope that I can kind of cover that niche as well. Then what I hopefully aim to do is that this will ideally be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing. And then on the Saturday of each week, I'll be able to do a deck profile where I finally just culminate all my progress and have all of you guys be able to just sort of see what the progress has been and what the end result will be, and if there will be enough interest for each deck and for each week. I haven't really decided on which way I want to do this quite yet, but I might also engage in some form of maybe like a deck guide or a primer to some capacity. So let me know if you guys enjoy this kind of idea for this series. I think that I can make this a lot more exciting and just a lot more of a structural kind of thing, because the biggest problem with the series in the past, as you guys probably know if you're a long time viewer of the channel, is that there are times where I kind of just give up on the series a little bit, or not give up, but I do other content instead, but I don't have like a rigorous schedule. Hopefully by doing it this way, it'll introduce some more regular content in the schedule, and that will be exciting for you guys. But I've rambled on for long enough. This is going to be the first week, and we're going to be exploring Orcust, which actually did win the poll. I couldn't decide which deck I wanted to do because I had so many different ideas, so I just let you guys pick, and Orcust did win. So I'm going to put for you guys on the screen right now the deck list that I'm working with, and I'm going to shout out a member of my Discord server. His name is Saint RL, who has basically done a lot of the groundwork for kind of this control-oriented list. As you can see, it's like Mekk-Knights, but with a lot of just non-engine defensive cards to try and just slow down the game state. And it's a lot different from like the Rocket Orcust build that I was playing, which I do still enjoy, but I feel like with the format moving towards a control sort of metagame, this is something that I want to test out. So that is what we're going to be doing today. And obviously I'm not going to be spending a ton of time explaining because that's not the point of this particular video, but in case you guys want to have a peek of what I'm working with, that is what we are doing right here. So we're going to be in Orcust, and our opponent is playing Thunder Dragon, which will be pretty interesting. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started here. I've rambled on for long enough. Oops, I accidentally left the sound on. I like to have the Dueling Book sounds on when I play, but not when I commentate. But we do lose the die roll here, and our opponent is going to opt to go first. Alright, so you can see our hand is Ash, Blue Sky, Solemn Strike, Ice Dragon's Prison, and Armageddon Knight. This is pretty good. We have a hand trap. We have some pretty solid traps that are applicable going first and second. We have a starter, and we also have just a way to kind of extend if we get stopped and access Scarcity for potentially next turn if that ever is a concern. So we're going to go ahead, and our opponent actually starts out by shotgunning a copy of Dimension Shifter, and I'm like, oh, well, this makes his hand significantly worse because now this Armageddon Knight is off. So I just have to hope that I can live for a turn. and just see what exactly my opponent is up to. Here I'm thinking that, oh, maybe it's just pure Zodiac who's still on like Dimension Shifter, and then my opponent fires off the Allure of Darkness, and I'm thinking, I wonder what this could be. It doesn't really hit me instantly that it's Thunder Dragon, so I actually don't like to Ash here. But then as soon as I like say it's okay, I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably Thunder. But then I decide maybe I should just go ahead and Ash the Roar if that ever ends up being banished from this effect. But luckily for me, my opponent draws into another dead copy of Shifter, which he is then forced to banish, and just passes. So I'm thinking, all right, this is not terrible. Obviously, my blue sky is not live here either, which I would have liked to have gotten a little bit of value there, but I'm actually just thankful that my opponent is unlikely to actually be killing me. We draw a copy of World Legacy Memories for turn, and this is quite nice, even though we already have a blue sky. Typically, we want to be getting purple, so that's like totally good as well. But we can afford to take the turn pretty slow because our opponent obviously just passed, right? So we just go ahead and set our back row and pass back. Opponent is going to end phase use Gizmic, and I'm thinking that's pretty funny, summoning the Gizmic against the Orcust deck. But obviously that's going to be totally fine. They're going to draw for a turn, and they're going to be thinking for a little bit. And then they decide to activate a copy of Thunder Dragon Dark in hand, and this was obviously drawn for turn. Otherwise, they would have used Allure to banish it, or they would have used it during my turn. And actually, I just noticed there's Metaphys cards in here too. I did not notice this, obviously, in the game, and I haven't actually looked back on this footage, but yeah, my opponent is on... there's a bit of a spoiler for later, but there's also Necroface in here too, so it's a pretty interesting Thunder build. But yeah, Dark's going to be fine. Obviously, I'm not compelled to Ash this or anything. Totally okay here. As long as I'm not dying, like, we're probably in a good position to win. We'll take the 2450 and just go ahead and activate the copy of Memory in the end phase. This is pretty good. We're able to get a copy of Purple. And even though we already have a normal summon in the form of Armageddon Knight, I'm not too concerned about that, because this deck actually doesn't mind having multiple normal summons if you're anticipating getting hand trapped, because you want just some form of follow-up. And this kind of just allows you to have additional options, which is why Memory is pretty good. But we're going to draw a copy of Gizmic of our own for turn, which is pretty decent. And then, of course, our purple is going to come back during the standby phase as well. And this sets us up pretty well. All we have to really be concerned about is just making sure that we don't die to hand traps. But we do have the Solemn Strike, so I'm going to save this for pretty much exclusively Nibiru. If we do get hand trapped on our normal summon here, I'm not going to actually be too worried about that, because I feel like we can play the game relatively slowly, given the fact that our opponent hasn't really taken much action in the first game here. So we go ahead and normal summon a copy of Gyusu, and that's okay. So we're going to send a copy of Nightmare to grave. Then we're going to activate the purple that's on our board still. This way we can actually use the Gyusu token summoning effect, because I have some plans for this blue sky in our hand. So we're going to go and use the purple to target itself. That's going to just banish to search another copy of Gyusu. Obviously we just have so many normal summons, but at this point it really is just free card advantage, and that is never really that bad of a thing. So we're going to then use the Gyusu's second effect, as we mentioned, to go ahead and generate some tokens. And then we're going to turn that token into a copy of Hcabe. And then that allows us to summon a copy of Blue Sky, of course, because I put the token in this column in particular. This allows us to get a search for a copy of Purple Nightfall. And at this stage, I'm really just trying to amass as much damage and as much link material as I possibly can. This way I can hopefully try no TK, because I also have plans to deal with this Gizmic as well. I go ahead and then link away the Hcabe as well as the Gyusu for a copy of Galatea, and I put in the other EMZ, so my opponent actually helped me out there by putting the Gizmic in this zone in particular, because now I'm able to actually just special this purple for free, since even though I already used this effect, the other one that is, I didn't summon it this turn via its own conditions, so totally free to do so here. Then we can go ahead and use this Nightmare after that to boost our Purple Nightfall and send a copy of World Wand. From here we're able to use Wand to bring back the Nightmare, putting it in a tap position because this token is actually on 0. Then I'm going to shuffle back the World Wand and then activate Babel from our deck. And from here we're just going to go for a copy of Ding, use that effect to send the Gizmic to the graveyard, and just go to battle phase. So we're going to go and use our Nightmare to hit over the token, and then we're going to attack with Blue Sky. On that attack declaration, my opponent tries to use this copy of Gizmic, but I have a copy of Ice Dragon's Prison set, so I decided to just go ahead and use that to take it. And the only restrictions on it is that its effects are negated, but it can still attack, and you can put it in whatever position you want to. And you also obviously don't have to banish if you want to, because that is optional. So I'm just going to put it in a tap position and attack with every monster for game. So that is a pretty good game number 1 here. Now what I'm going to be doing as promised is show you guys my siding progression. So here is a screenshot of what my siding looked like for this particular match, and I have the cards highlighted using DB's feature. I actually forgot to do this in game, so I went ahead and went to solo mode and did it there. But yeah, you can see I sided out Cosmics, obviously, because they're not going to be super impactful. I didn't really see any Floodgates, and it looks like there's just more combo cards in this list, so didn't bother to do anything there. And I decided to put in Forbidden Droplet because, as well as Call by the Grave, because I like quick play spells against Titan, since you can chain block the Titan whenever they try and use their Thunder effects in hand. Plus, this can just help negate the Titan itself if need be. I figured that Torrential and Strike, while decent, wouldn't be as impactful going second in particular. But I still do like Ice Dragon's Prison just as a way to kind of like clear Titan as well. Have to be careful, of course, because it is Thunder, but it is one of the ways you can also clear it as just a straight up out. So that is kind of the basic logic there. If you guys are enjoying this commentary and this series, definitely please give the video a like. I would appreciate if you guys supported this series, and just let me know what your guys' general opinions are, and that would be a great way to let me know. Also, subscribe if you are new here and want to see more of this style of content. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into game number 2. So our opponent is once again going to be going first here, and we drew the copy of Lancia, which is pretty good. Also, I didn't directly mention Lancia, but it was pretty obvious that we're going to be siding Lancia versus Thunder. And we also drew Droplet just in the event that our opponent manages to stick a Titan, because it is technically possible to, especially with Verte Anaconda. But we go ahead and we're actually going to go ahead and just shotgun the Lancia, because even though my opponent might have Gamma, I don't want my opponent to just fire off an Allure of Darkness, and I will be sad if I, either have to like use the Lancia, but then my opponent just gets the Pot of Greed, or if I have to wait, but then my opponent gets a free Thunder activation. So I'd rather just do it now. And my opponent didn't directly use Dimension Shifter in the draw phase like he did last time, so I figured, yeah, we might as well just go ahead and use Lancia. There is no Gamma, thankfully, so our opponent is going to set and then normal a copy of Necroface, and then pass. So here my read is, okay, my opponent might have a copy of Dimension Shifter again and just opted not to use it in response to the Lancia, just to kind of catch me off guard. Because I'm thinking, alright, so if he has Shifter and I like somehow clear this Necroface, then he just gets to fire off a whole bunch of Thunder effects, and that won't be very good for me. So I kind of want to bait out the Shifter as early as possible here. I draw a copy of Crescendo for turn, which is decent, alongside my hand of Gyusu, Droplet, Purple, and Gizmek again. So what I like to do here is actually normal summon the copy of Gyusu first. I thought about just going straight for Purple and then like going battle phase and seeing what would happen, but I thought about it, and if my opponent just used Shifter on attack declaration, that would be really, really bad, because then the Necroface would just get banished, and then that would not be super good for me. Well, less harmful to me and more just beneficial for my opponent. So here I just want to see if there's any way that he fires off the Shifter in response, because this is too tantalizing of a target, right? But my opponent actually surprises me and flips up a copy of Mass Change too. And I'm like, alright, well, fair enough, I guess. He's going to go ahead and pitch a copy of Hawk and then turn this Necroface into a copy of Mass Hero Darklaw, which effectively accomplishes the same thing, but this is actually far easier to out than dealing with a Dimension Shifter. So I go ahead and just banish the copy of Nightmare because I have plans for it later. And then here I decide, alright, let's go ahead and use Gyusu to generate tokens again, because I have Purple in hand, so I can kind of just use this to my advantage. I then go ahead and use the token for a copy of Linkuriboh, and then I summon a copy of Purple to the hand, or to the field from my hand rather. And from here I could just directly go into battle phase and clear this Darklaw. I'm also kind of considering Nibiru here, since I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my own token is 5, because it counts, Nibiru counts monsters summoned, not the amount of times summoned. So this is already Nibiru range, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if I get Nibiru here, I'm not too upset about that, because I can just chain the Purple in response, and that also just clears away the Darklaw, and I'm not really too upset about that. Also, I don't want to use Droplet, because obviously I can't send to the graveyard for cost, because, you know, I'm under Darklaw, so Droplet doesn't actually work here. So what I have to really do is kind of just see how much value I can get with this Dark Law in mind, because actually there is a way that I can use this in my favor. So rather than going to battle phase right away, I actually have a plan to where I use these two and deliberately banish my own Girsu so I can make a copy of Galatea. Now what this accomplishes is now I have another Orcust name, so I can not only use the Galatea effect, but I also want to ding attach the Nightmare. This way I can use a Nightmare later on too. So by deliberately letting my stuff get banished, it actually works out better for me in this case, because I'm able to actually just extract a little bit more value this way. Galatea is going to shuffle back the Girsu, and then go for a copy of Babel. And then we're just going to go ahead and end main phase 1. Again, I'm not too upset if I get Nibiru there. I mean, it would suck a little bit more, but I would still have the purple to just get another Girsu for follow-up, and again, clearing the Dark Law is totally okay. Here I'm obviously going to attack over the Dark Law, but I decided to leave the token up because I also have a couple of different plans as well to just get max value this turn. So main phase 2, I use the purple to banish itself and search a copy of Blue Sky. And then from here, I'm going to summon the Blue Sky and search for a copy of Girsu for next turn. Now this allows me for another link material, so I can actually use that to my advantage. I'm going to overlay a copy of Dingirsu over the Galatea, and then use the effect to attach the Nightmare like I mentioned. This way I just get the free symbol Ding loop if I need to. And then I'm going to link away for a copy of Masquerena. You could argue that going for Galatea might have been better here because I had this Crescendo, but I felt like it was alright because I could also just bring back the Galatea from my graveyard if I want to, so I didn't really feel too badly there. And from here we have just a wide variety of interruptions. We have the Ding interruption, we have the Masquerena, and we have potentially a Crescendo if we want to. We could also even go in a long Girsu. We also have the Droplet as well. So I'm feeling quite good from here. And then we're just going to go ahead and set Crescendo and the Droplet, and then pass turn. And then in my opponent's draw phase, I'm going to just use this Nightmare right away to send a copy of Symbol Skeleton before my opponent proceeds to the main phase. And my opponent says in chat he drew the one card he didn't need, which is unfortunate, but he just ends up setting one and passing. Ends up being another copy of Necroface, it looks like. But yeah, from here we are in a very solid position. We're just going to go ahead and Symbol Revive back to Galatea, and then use Galatea to recycle the Nightmare. And we don't have any more targets because we hard drew the Crescendo, but not really that big of an issue. We draw a Scrap Recycler for turn, which again is another normal summon, but from here we're already in a winning spot, so it's not really that big of a deal. We get a purple back in the standby phase, and then we can just use our resources to win from here. So we're going to normal summon a copy of Girsu, and then use that effect to send a copy of Nightmare to grave. And then from here, I just don't want to lose to Nibiru for no reason, so I use my second summon on a Unicorn to shuffle this back in case it's like a random floater. And I pitch the Gizmic, and my opponent concedes. From here, I could have just easily gone Dingirsu to send, and then just go battle phase, attack with everything, and then go for Gizmic for the game here. So that is the basic concept of this deck. It is really more of a control style build, and this obviously wasn't like the most interactive matchup per se, but it's a good foundation for how the deck is going to be. And like I said, with this new format for this series, I'm going to be doing multiple episodes on the same deck, so you can expect to see just more gameplay here in general. So hopefully you guys do enjoy these changes to this series. I hope that will make it feel more like an actual road to 1000 instead of just one-off episodes, because I feel like that's been the issue with this series for quite some time now, and I really didn't think of any solutions to fix it until some way through last format, which is kind of actually the reason why I stopped doing those episodes, is that I wanted to implement this change in a new format. But hopefully you guys do enjoy. That's going to do for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more competitive and informative Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on all social media platforms or support me via Patreon or TCG Player. All the links in the description as usual. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.